spent my career representing large companies, large corporations, mostly in the healthcare space, and in some cases for banking and pharma and retail. I've done a little bit of everything. Usually my experience has primarily been corporate, very corporate. Companies have called upon us to help them out with their crisis situation. They might be in a tough jam. They might have pissed off a bunch of stakeholders. I've had to write a lot of things for these executives. Their CEOs or their CFOs, they have to do earnings announcements. So I've done a myriad of things in that space. Launch products for companies as well. And I'm here today because, like yourself, I've had to employ public relations to promote my public relations business, you know. And so I think like you guys. I'm a small business owner, and the way I see it is we, the folks in this room, given where the economy is and how the whole country's counting on us to spur that growth. You know, there's a lot of tools out there that I'm really happy to tell you about. Because I want to see you folks go out there and do this on your own. Try to tap some of these things. If you do all the things that Hannah told you to do, you'll do great. And these are some of the other things to think about. Okay, so I'll get started. I'm going to focus on the do-it-yourself PR. You know, we're going to do a recap of what traditional PR looks like. It's still good, and what extraordinary PR looks like. Okay, this is the state of public relations. It's a big, lots of buzzwords. You know, it's networking, it's working, it's media, it's PR. You got to think, network, befriend. This is how I feel sometimes when I first started the business. So do you guys feel like this sometimes? That this is, you know, all right. And then it gets more confusing because marketing and PR start merging into one. Okay. All right, so traditional PR methods, still useful, still good. You have the basics. You know, Hannah did a great job outlining all the things you guys got to go home and do, your bio, your website, your profiles. Some of the basics, you know, up here from your materials development, your websites, your fact sheets, some press releases if you do that, your brochures, your alerts, your briefings, your outreach, your editorial calendars, your events. Yeah, that's the world that we lived in for many years, okay? Now, of course, the goal of that has always been to get the coverage, get me ink, you know, get me in front of the TV, or get me that traffic to my event or to my conference, okay? So now here's the way I see it, and this is why this field is changing very dramatically. Number one, public relations pros use similar tools. We're all running in this race. You know, Hannah talked about how you know, there are certain reporters you can't keep on harassing them, you know, because they're going to get pissed off at you. They won't take your call. And so for the most part, there are successes out there, many successes, and then others, well. These days, reporters, you know, this could be a reporter or a customer, or both, you know, and so this is the reality of public relations right now. This is the reality, okay? And if you're good like Hannah, this is not your issue. But for the rest of us, you know, we have to know how to do this. And so you guys get the picture. So you have to reckon with the do not call registry. I have some numbers, actually. Do not call registry, the blacklist, and Hannah talked about those things as well. I'll just go here. So here's some learnings, okay? Here's a quick recap. Basically, nobody owns media relationships. Engagement takes a lot of time. Nothing happens overnight. There are no such thing as shortcuts, no one-hit wonders. Do not expect to do one great thing. It's fabulous. They're gonna love you, right? No. Because consistency counts, persistence counts. Hannah's been at this for a long time. Kudos to her. She's got a great name and reputation in her space. And that's what years count. Hannah can't do this in one day and stay like that. You know what I'm saying? So you guys, if you pick the field that you're in, you got to stick with it, get to know those 10 reporters like she said, and you know, because the consistency counts, so they'll pick up your call, all right? And you got to stick around. You can't just do one event and think it's going to be it for you. It's not, okay? So here's how the landscape changing is, and I changed the background just to give you the extra drama, all right? So now real time, you know, we had a hint at that. I'll reference some of the examples she gave. This is a guy I've met, David Muirman Scott. He's an ex-bond trader. I forgot to tell you that I used to be on Wall Street. I did banking for like 4 years, IPOs, et cetera, whatever. So I get this whole bond world where you got screens up, you're watching what's going on in this world. Public relations, we gotta react fast, you know, and so real-time PR is the name of the game right now. So there's so many ways to engage. It's great to hear that many of you are using these resources already. That's great. Now, smartphones is changing the world, kind of. You know, like you can upload anything, like right now. You could take a photograph. You could say, "Julie just said this," and go up on the web. And you know, Kobe Bryant just said a gay slur. It's out there. You know, and you know, like You could spend all these years building a great reputation. It takes you seconds to screw that all up, you know. So that's the severity of the situation. That's the stuff that you guys got to think about when you start touching this yourself. Okay. So smartphones are dominating. You know, these are some numbers. It's serious. You know, it's so easy to get the stuff up there. You know, you can post, you can talk, comment. It's out there. And smartphones are totally disrupting other stuff, other technologies. The flip just died, you know, the flip is gone. That was so hot. I have one, you know, and so we bought 6 in its lifetime. And the alarm clock, the iPod, does anybody still use their iPod anymore? You know, seriously, you know, the camera, right? The camera, this is how the world is changing, right? So I'm giving you guys a reality of what we're thinking about. And we share everything. You like it, you don't like it, tell me now, you know? So, and then we talk about the things we buy, you know? So you got Amazon, you're commenting. How many of you guys have posted a comment on some website about something you like or don't like? How many of you guys have done that? I have some stats that I can't find right now, but anyway, so Yelp, people are on Yelp talking about their, you know, restaurants they like and don't like. It's instantaneous. You have to, if you're gonna touch PR by yourself, you gotta keep this in mind, okay? We talk about stuff that we like and we talk about stuff that we're angry about. You know, the world, this is not a happy time, right? This whole world has gone to hell, you know, and so if it's not the Madoff or the gas prices or the oil slick that's killing, that's destroying the whole shrimp industry down south, or the tsunami of Japan, everyone's pissed off, okay? So you gotta deal with that too, right? So now that you know all this stuff, because with the world, the reality that we deal with as public relations professionals is you know more now. Right now, you know so much more about me, about everybody. They're just, it's so easy to get that information about people now, right? So why don't you guys go ahead and use it for your business? So can you see the slide? Okay, so basically, in my head, you know, if you have a product or a service, you gotta do what you can to get it right, you know, give the right experience to people. They're going to give you feedback, because that's what people do now. That's going to be out there. Some of you are already collecting feedback. You're collecting testimonials. That's great. Case studies, things like that. That'll lead to referrals. You know, Hannah talked about how many referrals she gets because she's been doing it for a while and people respect her. She's credible. You get referrals that way. That leads to new customers, and it just keeps on going on. And if you control this cycle, that middle part's going to be bigger, and that's why success is spelled with dollar signs. All right. Any questions so far? I'm moving quickly. All right. So, okay. So traditional PR, there's nothing wrong with traditional PR. It's just, this is how I was raised, this is how we do it. It's a net, you throw the net out there, okay? Now, if some of you guys are doing it, you should do it, you know? So you gotta take that net, throw it out there. You don't really know what you're gonna get. You might get a big fish, you don't know, all right? So Kaiman Company means open door, and we think of ourselves as a door, right? And so getting the word out the door is kind of what public relations do, right? So you still need a story about your product, about your service. You still need that web presence, things that Hannah had covered, the collateral, the fact sheet, the bio, things like that, your description, your boilerplate. There are plenty of other ways to get the word out. You know, thought leadership is big time. You know, your case studies, are you doing white papers, are you speaking, are you volunteering in organizations like AWIP to speak? Your webinars, that's a new thing for some of us, you know. Plenty of people are doing it. That's a great opportunity to showcase the legal stuff that, you know, legal issues that you can talk about, the spa industry changing, the yoga, the clothing, the jet lag, you know, the changing in the supermarket, how we buy our food. You can take a stand and stand out apart from everybody else, okay? Because that's what it is right now. There's so many people, it's a tough economy, you gotta stand out, right? So books, ebooks, you know, Hannah talked about sponsorships, charitable activities, good to do, testimonials, etc. Now the world is changing, the whole in thing. Now Nancy Wu talked about inbound and outbound, you know, so public relations has always been putting it out there. You got to do it. Nobody says you got to stop that. You got to put it out there. But you still, what the world is moving towards is attracting. It's so much harder to be running around chasing after people. Wouldn't it be great if they just come to you, right? The phone to ring, the emails to come in, the calls to come in, the referral. Let them come to you. And there are a lot of tools out there. And I'm gonna get there. So it's like the bee, getting the bee to come to your flower, right? So bringing it in is what it's about. Now this is what people are using. It's the whole Google. You Google this, Google that. I totally, I was sitting next to the CEO of Yahoo, and we were talking, Jerry and I were talking about I forgot what we were talking about, and then I said, let me go Google it, and I totally botched that one up with his Yahoo guy. Anyways, what I'm saying is it's part of our nomenclature, okay? He doesn't remember me, don't worry about it. I'm not worried about it anymore. So basically the forces are converging, all right? And part of this presentation is to give you that feeling that the world is changing, and how all of you guys were so smart to register for this class to get the best of everything from Hannah and Julie. So the forces are converging, and here's what you got. You got PR, okay, but it's kind of mixing it up with social media, which I'll talk about. There's marketing in the mix, and then there's community building, which Hannah talked about, and I'm going to talk about too, right? And why is do-it-yourself PR, why does that work for all of you in the room right now, why you don't need to worry about a firm, at least not yet? And there are no excuses, okay? Is because everybody, including people who do what I do for a living, they're all still trying to figure it out, okay? This is so new that don't be afraid to fail. Like, you can do anything you want and do any visibility you want tomorrow, and if you mess up, you can do it again. There are other things to try. But don't give up if one thing doesn't work out. I only got one visitor, I only got 3 attendees, I got no coverage. Don't worry about it, just try it out, okay? So one of the things that my peers are doing, and I came from large places, is that because everyone's trying to figure out, they find that one guy or gal, and they call that person the social media guru. It's that person's job, and that's it. And they think that's it, it's not it. All of us can do it, it's empowering, you know? So it's not one person's job, okay? So the extraordinary part about public relations is you can integrate all these great ideas into one for yourself, okay? Now, content is the big cheese. It's the big thing. Do you guys know where I'm going to go with this? Does anybody have a gut where this is going? Any ideas? Content. When you hear content, what do you think this is about?
Information.
Right. Okay. Now, traditional content has been what? Press releases. What else? Anybody? Do you want me to call names? Just kidding. Anybody? So you got press releases. You have brochures. You know, your case studies, your bio. Opinion, you know, but there's other kinds of content. Every other person and their mother's a blogger now, you know what I'm saying? So content that these people have written great books about how content rules, and they're great tools to access. This PowerPoint is way too big to email. It's on my site. It will be available at 1 o'clock tomorrow. I have to just go through it one more time. So you don't have to write this down, you can get it tomorrow, okay? So now I'm going to go through a bunch of tips. So before you prepare, before you do anything yourself, you got to check your public profile. Hannah talked about it. She talked about how you got to get your profile straightened out. I want to add to the fact that you got to make sure that the tone is consistent, the messaging is consistent, that you don't try to present yourself in different ways. It's great to have different photographs, right? Because for different purposes, but the story about you should be about the same everywhere you're at. The Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Google profile, it should be about the same, all right? And the first thing you should do, in addition to doing your bio, your photograph, your boilerplate that Hannah said, you got to set up Google Alerts. Okay, do you guys know, does anybody have Google Alerts set up? Great, wow. Everybody else, get that going. Google Alert your name, your company, your competitors, because here's why. You need to know if someone says something about you. Don't you? When are you going to find out? You want to wait till it's in the news or everybody, or you know, you want to wait that long before you know? You got to know now. And you know, I know people are Google alerting themselves, and when I write about them, I get an email like this within 5 minutes. Hey Julie, thanks for mentioning me. You're blah blah blah. You know, like Google alerting. The world is moving towards real time. Okay, and I showed you that book before by David Norman Scott. So Google Alert your spa name, your partner's name, your just names out there, and see what's out there, all right? So I'll go on that point. The second thing to do before you start doing your own PRs, you got to pay attention. You know, Hannah talked about learning what's out there totally. You know, so before you tackle this, you kind of need to see what your competitors are doing, what your friends are doing. Learn, take notes. Here's a roadmap. I gave you a roadmap. You start with the website, you go to the blog, you go to the press releases, you go to the tweets, you go to the LinkedIn, go back to Facebook. Look for cause and effect. What is it that your competitors did that looked interesting to you? You know, what did your competitors do? What did your old coworker who's doing something similar do? What did they do? Just study that, because maybe that could be applied to you. All right, to your business. Feedback, conversation. One of the reasons why the world is changing is because people are having conversations right now. They could be having conversations about your business right now. You know, the yoga business, this will never happen, but what if the yoga business, you know, is suddenly disappears overnight? Don't you want to know that this just happened? You know, like, so the conversations are important. I try to highlight a dialogue I have with people I never met, okay? I'm having conversations, and they're all very nice conversations. Social media, we're all very polite. We thank each other, we acknowledge each other, and we follow each other. And there might be things I might say that doesn't sound so bad that they might talk about, and there are things that they're going to say that's going to pique my interest. And that's how we give each other kudos and credit, and how we give each other, that's how we build a connection, okay? Because no one should ever expect to pick up that phone to that report and expect coverage until you have that connection, okay? So 4A, create your own content. Yes, the word blog, all right? And I'll talk about when you don't like to do that. I'll go there too. Blog, and whenever you write something, and I try to do this whenever I can, you have to have a call to action. You know, you can't just, you have to have a reason for writing. And if it's strictly for marketing or selling, people are going to tell and they're going to be turned off. And turning off is not what you should be doing, right? So call to action means like you want people to take some action. Like for instance, let's say that you're Max Delivery. You're writing about a product. Then maybe you want to end by saying why people should buy a certain product from you. Why you and not? Why is it convenient to be buying that product in the middle of the night than it is to, you know, why should you buy Jack Torres's chocolate, you know, right before Easter because you don't have to travel to the West Side and get it, you know, so you can get it from Max Delivery. Other things you can do is videos. It's so easy. I actually talked about the smartphones. How many of you guys have a phone that can take video? How many of you guys have a phone that can take photos? Okay, well, you're ready to go. You're all ready to go. What did I say? Yeah, right. Call to action. When you upload videos to YouTube and stuff like that, you can grab the HTML and drop it on your site. So don't worry about storing video on your site. To me, that's like beyond my head. There are people here who know how to do that. Wayne who knows how to do that, but it's beyond my head. So other things to do: white papers. White papers is a big deal. Why? Because you can make it downloadable. Why? When you make it downloadable, you can either make it downloadable very easily, or you can have people fill out a short form so you know who they are. Don't you want to know who's downloading your paper, right? That could be a lead for you, right? So those are things that's another call to action. And you could write a little blurb that says you have this paper that's available on your site, you put it out there, and then you drive everybody home to your site, bringing the bees to your flower, okay? Emails, collecting emails on your site is also very key. You got to bring everybody back to your site, right? This is all about bringing everybody to you. I don't want you guys running around, right? So bring everybody back to you, okay? Any questions so far? Yes?
Yeah, what is a white paper?
It's on white paper. It's on a paper that's white. And it's usually a concept. What industry are you in again? Is it?
This is for interior design.
Okay. I'm going to make it up. Let's say that you wrote a white paper about the new trends in interior design. But maybe before you write that paper, you should check to see what everybody else is writing about. You know, you could actually. There's another buzzword here. What's the word? Curate. You can curate what other people are saying about the designs, the interior design, and say, you know what? Here's my analysis of what the 5, 6, or 7 different thought leaders are saying about interior design, because they're this big, you know. And that's fine too, because you know what? You put that paper up on your site, you tag it with those guys' name. Guess who's going to see it? They're Google learning their names. They're watching what people are saying about them. They'll come to your site. You know what I'm saying? David Meerman came to my site, and you know, he wrote that book. I wrote a little brief about him very quickly. Here he came in, and he's like, "It's real time, Julie, because I move very quickly." Does that make any sense?
Right.
So you could curate, which is another word if you don't want to write anything. You can start off by curating, okay, which is a result of listening.
How do you spell that?
Sorry, C-U-R-A-T-E. It's a museum word.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, smartphone. You can upload right now. You've got video. You can take 5 minutes of video on your phone and upload it on Quick. You know, you want to take pictures. You can upload your picture on TedTalk. There are so many different sites like these days to let you participate in the real-time world. Okay, and if you have no time to create, I will recommend that you call in the pros. That does not necessarily mean to call in a PR firm. I guess it just depends. You know, if it's wine related, you got to call Hannah. But For other things that are just esoteric or CROs, I know what that is, you know, other things, there is a resource. I have no relationship with these people, but they have an army of writers there for you, and they can work out a relationship and do that writing for you. It's a lot of work, you know. Is that clear? So it's part of the content marketing universe. The other thing that you can do, if you don't like social media, because like Hannah said, and I agree with her, it's not really for everybody. Really, it's not for everybody. You can create your own channel. You know, I'm going to use a big corporation example. Dell has their blog. You know what? Because if nobody's going to talk about them, they might as well talk about themselves. And they try to talk about them in a very objective way. Don't be no slants, no hard sell. Nobody likes a hard sell, you know. And Dell's got some good corporate disclosure policies out there. You know, they're really respected. All the companies in this corporate, you know, Fortune 500 pay attention to what Dell does because they're leading the way. All right. Now I'd like to play this video for you, but I don't know. I don't think it works. So I think I wanted to show you this. It works. Let's see. And it doesn't. Okay. So we are back.
Pull the plug.
Pull the plug. Oh, this plug. Nope, it doesn't. All right. So when you guys get, if you want PowerPoint tomorrow, you can actually just go to that site and check it out. Basically, Steve Garfield, who's another thought leader in this space, talks about how he created his own channel. He's on his site. He doesn't write a lot. He has a video blog, and he's sharing with everybody his comments about the world or subject matter. He puts it up there very quickly, and all of us follow him. We watch what he's doing, and that's how we learn what's out there. Is this good with everybody? Is this interesting? Okay, all right. So the next thing is you got to get your goals straight. Now, here's something that I try to keep in mind. A lot of my clients have said to me, "I want to do something that will attract the media." Okay. Okay. Well, the way I see it is you got to do something to attract your customers or your clients. Focus on them. You know, because if it's media focused, those guys can tell. They can tell if you're targeting them. They can tell that it's a stunt of some sort. And the truth is, if your customers aren't talking about you, then why should they? So think about that. And until you get people talking about you, no one should expect that Oprah's going to call you. Nobody, not that she will, but nobody, or she might, but until you have people talking about you. You know, people have to be talking about you because reporters have to justify why they should cover you. You know, their jobs are on the line. A lot of them are going into this freelancer world. They're suing Huffington Post. A lot of drama out there in the reporter world. Okay, where they're not getting paid. They're getting let go. Nobody, the whole newspaper industry is like shot to hell. And basically it's like how do you, because they're not getting the ads because people download their stuff. So people get info in bites. They get it from Twitter. They find out what earthquakes happen from Twitter. They're not waiting for CNN to put out an announcement, So reporters have to justify. And if something big is happening in the world, you're not going to be important to them. None of us are. So I've had reporters drop their stories because they have to cover the Times Square bomber. I've had reporters who have to drop their stories because all hands on deck. Something else is more important because something's happening right now. So, all right. Okay. So anyways, so for the day, when the day comes and you're ready for your big time chat with that reporter, you might want to look at Twitter. Why? I'm not asking you to tweet today. Really, Twitter's not for everybody. But Twitter's a great place, and Hannah talked about reporters being on Twitter. Twitter's a great place to see what they're talking about. It's the biggest headache for reporters to talk to somebody who doesn't know what he or she just wrote, or if they've already covered that topic. If you're calling them and they've already written on the topic, you clearly show that you don't know what you're doing and you didn't read, and so they're not going to give you any respect. So Twitter's a great way to pick because they end up following each other. They have dialogues with each other, okay, and they always share. I see them share about the good things and the good PR tactics and bad PR tactics. Oh my God, it would be the kiss of death for a PR person to have your name. If any reporter gets upset at you and they tell everybody what you just did on Twitter, all right? So Twitter gives you a view into what reporters are thinking. You've got to get in their heads before you make that first call, all right? And then when you might leverage some information into a conversation. Sanjay Gupta had, what was that big sickness that we all faced recently? He had, not the flu. I forgot. But he said he had some major illness that I'm blanking on the name. It's not SARS. It's not avian flu. And people China this, are you okay? You know, he was in Afghanistan. You know, so it gives you a chance to be closer to a reporter, and you're not even pitching, right? That's the way it should go. You got to sort of have a relationship before you start. Okay. For those of us who don't care about content, who don't want content, fine. You know, use social media to listen, to learn, to comment. And point 2 back there was to give feedback. You know, you can actually use it to learn what everyone else is doing because it helps you in your business. You got to know what your competitors are doing. You'll see what tools they're using to promote their web business, what tools they're using to promote their clothing business, their interior design business, you know, their spa business, their accounting business, their life insurance business, what else I got here, the law business, etc. Right? So, number 10, there's tons of free resources. I made a list here. Slideshare.net is a website that has tons of presentations. Just go there, type in a couple of keywords, see what people are talking about, what presentations people have given, how recent are they. Just let it sink into your head a little bit. Help a Reporter. Haro is a website that was created by a peer. And it's a great place to get an email to your email inbox twice a day with all the different media assignments that reporters care about because they're looking for sources. So you never know if you might fit the description that they're looking for. Okay? So you can do that. And then there are plenty of webinars. You can go to LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, and search for webinars that you can sign up for and learn more about this. There's a lot to cover. And the other thing I want you guys to think about is search engine optimization. If you don't know what that is, ask Wei Ling Fu. But the other thing that you should do is something you should learn. Go back, look it up, because if you have a website, you have to optimize it. This is not Kevin Costner, build it and it will come. It doesn't work that way. Plenty of people have websites that don't move, don't change. It's the same. It's been like 4 years now. It's still about the same info, no updates. Why should reporters take you seriously if you don't have anything to talk about? Your website still looks the same, right? And Google, you move up the ladder, by the way. In the search engine, right, you move up the ladder when you have new content. They have these bots out there that will, you know, comb the web to see who's got new stuff. If you got new stuff and you consistently produce new stuff, you'll move up the search engine. Because being on page 4 is not good enough, right? You all want to be on page 1, right? Okay, by the way, if you want to be on page 1, what are the keywords that one needs to type into Google to get to you? Does anybody know? Something to think about. If people type in wine, PR, Hannah will probably show up on page 1. But if they type in interior design, blank, 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 will they get you? If they type in insurance, New York City, will they get you? If they type in spa, if they type in flies, you know, sleep deprived, jet lag, they'll find you.
But I mean, if you type in sex, that'll get up higher on Google, wouldn't it?
What word?
S-E-X.
You know what, sex has its own, I'm not an expert in Google searching sex, but I'm just going to assume that, that every industry, every category in this world has its own ranking. Okay, so sex has their own ranking, and jet lag has their own ranking, PR has their own ranking, right? So, yeah. Spa, what would they type to find you? Chinatown Spa, maybe in New York City? Is that what they would type? Okay, if that's what you want, then every time you put out a piece of information, you have to tag it. Spa, Chinatown, NYC, New York City. Spell it all out. Because you continuously put out information like that, they'll move up the ladder, right? Okay, I'm not an expert in this. I'm giving you all that I know. That's all I know. Okay, so things are free. So here's a free webinar by a woman who gets paid a lot of money to speak, Anne Hadley. And it's on April 27th on how do you create content. So you guys should download it. I'll give this to you. You'll download this PowerPoint tomorrow and you can get on this webinar for free. There are lots of free stuff out there. Speed matters. Now, let's see. Hannah talked about how this Charlie Sheen and Tiger Blood cocktail, brilliant. That's an example of how somebody was smart enough to see what everybody was talking about and insert his business into that. Okay? Made it relevant. Could you guys do that in your business? Is there something, because that's what reporters will jump on. That will look more important to them than talking about the next big tablet. I don't know. So it's the hot stuff, right? So what's hot now? What is happening right now? And if you are relevant, then they will write about you. If you got something that's relevant, You know, this person you know is now a big mixologist, and his career is like even better. That's an example of real time. So all of us have to start thinking like that, right? And then I'm wrapping up. So basically, the last thing is to be helpful and generous. That is the mode in this world where the economy is kind of depressing, and and we're all trying to stay optimistic. Optimism is a really good thing, and being nice to people publicly, because everything's very public, is key. And being generous with your knowledge and time. I have a blog called Actionable Ideas Blog, where I give away as many ideas as I can. I recently did a post about rock stars. I have a bunch of friends in the entertainment business, and I actually been to some of these events, and I felt like, oh wow, I wish I ought to just put down whatever I can think of how a performer should prepare to land that big deal, because you got investors and the record dealers. This is not even my field, right? But record dealers are looking for. So what are the things you should do? And I have people I don't even know who are on my blog thanking for these ideas because they've never seen it. That's all. So I'm not a rock star PR person, but that just gives you an idea to be. Yeah. Okay. So the last point is to go big and join forces. Hannah had an equivalent of that in her presentation about co-marketing. This is really key. You and someone else could represent different audiences, different people who care about you, different reporters. If there's a way to combine forces, wouldn't that be great? I mean, spa and yoga. I don't know. There are people here that we can link up a little bit. And I have some examples, but they're really big examples. I don't know, Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. Thought I'd pick one for music. Salesforce and Intuit are going after small businesses together. Citi, MasterCard, and Google talked about how they're going to now figure out a way to, Google's Android, right, to have you pay with your MasterCard by your phone. So people are coming up with new ways of doing things together. There are equivalents of this sort in the small business world for us to think about. Okay? I want to leave everybody with a case study as an example of some of the things I've talked about that I liked, that I think companies should pursue. LivingSocial is like Groupon. You guys heard of Groupon or LivingSocial, right? All of us seem to get one of their emails these days, right? So LivingSocial teamed up with American Red Cross to help Japan. Now, a lot of companies are doing this, but how come LivingSocial got some visibility for this? So when I first noticed this, I started capturing the screenshots because I thought, in prep for this event, I was going to share this with everybody. On March 17th at 1:40, they put out this announcement that they were doing this to donate up to $1 million. Oh, and the way it works is if you give $5 to them, it's 5 for 10. $5 for $10. So the donation to the American Red Cross would be 10 because LivingSocial is going to kick in 5. Okay. So at 6:25 on the same day, they've already raised $178,000. 6:25. 6:30. Twitter was buzzing like crazy. I tweeted it. It was on Facebook. We're all talking about it, right? 6:30. 6:54. It's up to 289,000. Right? What did I say before? 178. Now we're up to 289. Midnight, $1 million. Okay. 9:26, 2.2 million. They had no idea, but the word spread. It's a good deed. They teamed up. Of all the people, of all the groups donating money, this one got a lot of visibility. Because they did something nice. They used what they do best. And they had 682 media clips based on Google. Okay? So that's my presentation for today. There's a lot to cover. But stay in touch. There's an email that I put out that you'll hopefully get some ideas from. And thanks for this opportunity to present. Thank you, Barney.